Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us. I'm Alan Maneker, and I'm chairman of the board of the Steps Beyond Foundation. It's my real pleasure to welcome you to Champions of Blacks in Dance, a panel discussion presented by the Steps Beyond Foundation in collaboration with Steps Supporting Black Artists as part of our Artist Talk series. This talk coincides with next Saturday's marking of Juneteenth, and is our way to celebrate this important date. All the Foundation's past events and upcoming presentations can be found at stepsbeyond.org. That's one word, Steps Beyond. There is also a place there to make a suggested donation should you be so inclined, which we hope you will be, as it will allow us to continue these presentations. And now I'd like to turn it over to our panel moderator, noted dancer, Brian Harlan Brooks. Hello, Brian. You're muted.
Of course I am. How are you, Alan? Hello, my name is Brian Harlan Brooks. I am so excited to have this panel discussion this evening with my esteemed colleagues, mentors, brothers, sisters, friends, aunts. We are here to talk to you about the champions of Blacks in Dance. Before we get started, I just want to say that this is Old Home Week for all of us that are here. I would not be the man that I am, or the dancer that I am, or the artist, teacher, director, choreographer I am without the people that you see before you. We have Robin Dunn, illustrious hip hop choreographer, teacher, performer. We have Frederick Earl Mosley, director, choreographer, mentor, my brother. We have Joan Myers Brown, who almost needs no introduction because she is a legacy and a legend unto herself. Director, founder of PHILADANCO, mentor, auntie, and mom to many of us in the community. I'm going to tell you all a little bit about how this all got started here. So Earl Mosley was one of my best friends when I started training at the Albany American Dance Center. And he saw me, he's a little bit older than me, I won't tell his age. But he was the person who was over, like my older brother, looking out for me as I was dancing and navigating my young dance career. We were connected. He couldn't get rid of me. And it came time to audition for dance companies. And I had heard of PHILADANCO, but I had my eyes set on one place and one place only. And Earl said, boy, if you don't go to this audition, you're not going to be having a career. So you're going to go with me to this audition tomorrow. And I went with Earl to Philadelphia, where we stayed with a good friend of ours, Lucretia Welters, and I auditioned for Joan Myers Brown. And I got into PHILADANCO. I got into the PHILADANCO at the age of 18, and I started dancing there the month later. It was really right my birthday year. And through that tutelage of PHILADANCO, I got my sea legs as a professional dancer and a professional artist. I came back to New York and danced after dancing with PHILADANCO and some other companies, and I danced with Earl again. Earl had then started his own company, and I met the illustrious Robin Dunn, who is a hip hop phenom, a woman in the industry that stands on her own. And that connection, that legacy is how we became, I guess what people are calling now, everyone, champions of Blacks in Dance. So that's how we all got here. It's Old Home Week. I sound a little official and articulate. I'm a grown man these days. I was a young baby when I first met Joan Myers Brown. I was that big around, and just didn't even know anything, but I just wanted to dance. So with that, I want to start with JB. You started a dance company. You started a dance company years ago, and you started a dance company for young Black artists. I want to ask you this question. What is Black dance, and how does that differ than Blacks in Dance, if there is a difference?
Well, I've been asked that question 9,475 times. And my answer always, what is white dance? Is it dance that Black people do? Is it dance that we do to Black music? Is it dance by Black choreographers? What is Black dance? They give us labels all the time. I don't know if it means that we differentiate us from other people or some other things, but I don't have an answer for that question. What is Black dance? Somebody tell me.
Well, I will say to you this. I don't know if I've never said this to you. I mean, I've thanked you before, and I told you how much working for you and with you meant to me. But I say this. When I saw Black Panther, I said, I was lucky enough to have what I was like my little baby Wakanda by being a PHILADANCO. I never thought, because of where I was dancing and how I raised, I trained at Dance Theater of Harlem and I trained at Alvin Ailey. My images, my ideas of success were always around Blackness and were never centering around whiteness or the white gaze. And when I got to PHILADANCO, I saw people that looked like me. And I saw a cultural reference musically, rhythmically, energetically that I connected to and aligned with before I even knew what the language of alignment was. I felt aligned and connected to PHILADANCO just from watching it, just from the audition, just from the music. So I would say, from my perspective, Black dance would be dance that reflects the myriad of cultural references and movement and rhythm that we have in our bodies naturally in our culture, not being one thing, being all things that are American and even diasporic that go across the world. I'll turn it over to Robin. Robin, what do you think Black dance is, and how does that differ from Blacks in dance, if it does at all?
I'm with Ms. Brown. I don't know you as JB. We served on a panel together for Dance NYC. Before I even answer that question, I just have to say that I had a moment in my career while teaching one Monday night at Steps. When I walked out of the studio while I was teaching, and I saw all these Black ballerinas adjusting their pointe shoes, getting ready to rehearse at Steps on Broadway. I've been in the music business for many years. I've been a dancer for more years than that. And I started as a jazz dancer and then found my way to ballet, modern, jazz, etc., and studied traditionally. I tried on pointe shoes one time, and I was very clear about my direction in dance. And it was that I was not going to be a ballet dancer on pointe. And I went home that night and cried. I cried because I was so proud to be at Steps and see that many dancers of color with their flesh tone pointe shoes. And it just took me off guard because I was always so busy. And then when I walked out there and I saw that, I was like, oh my goodness. And so when we served on that panel, you never know who's like eyeing you or admiring you or who you're inspiring. Sure. And as a leader, as a visionary, I just want you to know and just thank you publicly for that, because what that did for me just went such a long way, and it just elevated the direction of where I'm went and am going in my career. Okay, back on point. And for me, I too don't like the labels. This is just where we are as a country, and for me, Black dance identifies the organic, spiritual, mental, emotional journey of our people expressed through movement. And it's unique in and of itself, obviously, because in the country that we live in the world that we live in, especially with what's going on nowadays, our voice is such a unique and special voice. And so, yeah, it does have a category all of its own because of the journey that we have that's all of its own. And because we still are in a place where, not that we're vying, I think, to like fit into the culture that we live in, but to just remember that we have diversity, we have inclusion, we have equity. And I have to say this about Earl, because Earl made diversity popular before it became popular in current times. And talk about visionary. I'm on here still creating dance, and I give Earl his credit for that, because if it wasn't for Earl, I might not be doing that. Thank you, Earl, for that. And obviously, you already stated that I met you. You became my brother as well. So it's like my heart is full right now in this moment. I'm excited. So, for me, it's the expression, embodiment, and articulation of our journey through movement, as far as I'm concerned, with Black dance.
Lovely. And that does take us to Mr. Mosley. And Earl, Robin is 100% correct in saying that you created a dance company called Diversity of Dance. Well, I guess we created it a long time ago before diversity as a term was a popular or a pop culture phenomenon. And so I'll just turn that conversation over to you. What is Black dance, and is it simply Blacks in dance, or does it differ from that in terms of a cultural or aesthetic expression?
You know, I have to agree with Miss Brown, because I think the reason why we developed diversity of dance was because we were sick of people telling us how we should talk, walk, how it should be, if our skin happens to be similar colors or the same color. Because we're people first at the end of the day. And what we all bring to the table is our cultural experiences, past, current, and present, and future. And I heard Ms. Brown say, like I've been asked that question 9,000 da 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 da. Like that, I guess when Tina Ramirez started Ballet Hispanico, were people asking her, well, what's Hispanic dance? What's Spanish dance? What's, you know, all of that? And there is something behind asking those questions, and I think it's that systematic racism. I really do. I'm not trying to like sugarcoat it here, because I think we're told, because we're of a certain, as Robin said, a certain experience of our own, then therefore we should dance in a certain kind of way, express ourselves as actors in a certain kind of way. And I was always about appreciating everybody's differences and celebrating those differences so we can all find similarities. And there's power in that. There's power in that diversity, that I'm not from Norway, that I am from Raleigh, North Carolina. There's power in that, you know, and there's power in my Blackness. And if I stand with somebody from Norway, we can find a collective, you know, a collective similarity, then that's something that we both should empower and embrace. So hence, that's how diversity of dance even came about, because I was always one for trying to learn not just about people who look like me, but trying to learn from others who don't look like me or who don't come from a similar experience, and how we can share in those moments, and then take that message and pass it down to the youth, so they therefore can even find a stronger platform and how to celebrate the differences that we all bring to the table.
You know, I'd like to jump in on that just a moment, because people talk about diversity, inclusion, and equity, and they ask me to be on panels about that. I'm like, you know, I was on that panel in 1962. I was on that panel in 1988. I was on that panel in 1999. And when the money goes out the door, the white folks go with it, and we get back to being Black again. So diversity, and you know, I don't even want to hear it. Just let us do what we do, because we do what we do well, and we do what we do good, and we do what we do that they steal from us. So that's my opinion.
Absolutely. I think what I'm hearing from the panel, and I have to echo, is that I think for all of us, our dancing and our expression and our culture was never a point that we wanted to put forward as much as we just wanted to be able to be. And then our protest and our activism comes as we get the pushback from our trying to just be, you know, and I think I have to credit JB and Alvin and Geraldine Blunden and Dayton Contemporary and Dallas Black and Lula Washington and all the women and people that created dance communities before I got here. So I never thought about anything other than I just wanted to dance. And then my activism and my pressing against a system came as a system tried to oppress and prevent me from dancing. And I think that the Blackness that I find in all of us, we have always been a community of inclusion and used our Blackness as a term, as a process of reaching the masses through what it is that we do internally in our homes. I always want to feel like, and all of you know me well, but some of the people in the world that are watching may not know this, I love to dance when I go out. I still love to dance when I go out. I've been that way since I was in 6th grade. And what I found in my community, when I danced with PHILADANCO, when I danced to Tally Beatty's rhythms, when I danced to Jean Hilsegan's classical music and rhythms, was an expression that came from my home that I could then put in a refined format that could be a voice that was versatile and could speak in multiple places. So what I'm hearing from the panel is that Blackness has always been a term of diversity and inclusion. It has never been a term of exclusion. And in our Blackness, there was never a need to protest until our Blackness was prevented from being. And that's when the protest comes. I want to move forward and say, in that aspect, because I think that that's a rather triumphant moment. What are our triumphs and what are our challenges as a community of Blacks in dance and Black dancers and Black artists? I can say right now that the existence of our community is a triumph. The perseverance is already a triumph. The fact that we are all still here doing this and believing in it, despite the pitfalls and egregious things that we may have suffered at the hands of racism and other isms that have come in our way. What are our triumphs and what are our challenges? I'll go in the same order. I'll start with JB. What are our challenges and what are our triumphs?
Well, first of all, my list of triumphs was long because I had to, I say I'm the grandmother of dance anymore. But just think, if we didn't come up with all the dances that we make up, they'd still be doing the foxtrot and the polka. Because I was telling my kids the other day, make a list of all the dances: the dog, the monkey, the hustle, the bop, the hip hop, the bop, everything that came up, we made it up. It came from our culture. It came from our streets. And I tell you, don't be afraid to learn how to do the waltz, but that's not what we started off doing. We might have mimicked some of them during the meringue, but we created dance. We created dance steps. We created dance forms. And they're still doing the European stuff and claiming that's their fame. But, we've done 9,000. I think we came up with 72 different dances that Black folks make. Now, my biggest triumph is IABD, because it started out with being a conference for 2 years before we made it an association. And here we are 32 years later, still doing IABD and serving the Black dance community, the community of Blacks in dance. So I think that for me is a triumph for all of us, because we're all now part of IABD. And they're looking to, again, emulate us, follow us, do what we do.
Absolutely. And just for everybody listening, IABD is the International Association for Blacks in Dance, and it was the Black Dance Conference. And JB, I don't know if you know, I was in the company when we did the very first one.
1988.
Yes, I was in the company.
I got it.
Second, because 1990 is when I joined the company. So right after that, I was in the second one.
Yeah, you were in the third year.
Yeah, the third year in 1990. So I was right in the beginning of that. And that's another thing for me as a young person. I know you know this, JB. We just looked at you like y'all got it together. Okay, where do we dance? Because it existed. I wasn't thinking that. Until later when you would let us in on the struggles that you went through to keep the company going and that you continue to face and keeping the company going, I was like, oh, PHILADANCO's always been here. It's just what we do. So I never thought of it as anything other than JB has this company. It's lovely. I love dancing in it. And here we go. So I think that that's a wonderful triumph. Robin, I want to turn to you.
Before you get to Robin, remember I gave you a hard way to go.
Yes, you did. But that was, for me, it didn't feel abnormal to me because the Black women in my life and the Black men in my life challenged me to be my best as I was growing. So when I got into the environment at PHILADANCO, it was hard, but it was part of what I believed my process to be great. I could see very clearly that you wouldn't have had me there if you didn't think I could dance. And I know that it wasn't no extra money sitting around, so you could just have me sitting on the side. So the want was always for me to be great. And I always knew that no matter what challenges or difficulties or irritations, because I've always had a mouth. So whatever my irritations and problems were, I was always clear that your want for all of us was to be excellent. And I knew that excellence, I could sense the weight of, I did this, and now y'all are going to do this, and you're going to do this in an excellent manner. So that, you gave me a hard way to go, but I'm better for it. I promise you.
All right.
Yes.
I'm
Robin,
sorry to interrupt, Robin.
Oh, no worries. So just flowing with it. Robin, one of the things that I find difficult to watch, I mean, as JB so clearly, eloquently put, we create dances, and then the world, capitalism, whiteness, steals it. And I want to make clear, when I say whiteness, I don't mean an individual white person. I mean the system of supremacy, the system of better than this, the system, the structure that forces us to sell what we have in order to survive where we are. And when I look at hip hop specifically, I'm first generation hip hop, right? I started getting my cardboard box out in 1986 and spitting on my back and pop locking in the parks and battling at the parties. And now I go to hip hop spaces, quote unquote, and I can't find Black people. How do you triumph through that? And how do you find that challenging, Robin? Robin, you're still on mute there.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Perfect. No worries.
I felt like a DJ just now.
We are all DJs in this Zoom StreamYard universe this year. We are all like
So Ms. Brown, you never have to apologize to me because I can listen to you all day, every day. Okay, so please keep on talking because your voice has always been needed and still is needed. Brian, I have a different outlook on what you just shared with me because there's a whole, what some have deemed the underground culture of hip hop that exists that is not as known to the wider society, and Ms. Brown brought up about how these terms, diversity, equity, inclusion, white supremacy, whiteism. And when we get into that, because I was raised, my mom would never like talking about race necessarily. She'd always just keep us in the direction of what is, where we're going, and not even like really give energy to some of the things that obviously are challenges. We got to keep our eye on it. The issue then becomes like when we use those terms is that Siri's trying to come up in this conversation. She don't belong here. Okay, go away, girl. And the thing is for the portion of the community that doesn't fall prey to what's systematic. When we saw Black Lives Matters and all the protests going on and the diversity of races and ages and genders out in the world, just challenging the system. And my point is, I don't focus on the idea of white supremacy. I focus on the fact that I have a dream, I have a goal, and I stay focused on that. And the fact that within the community I just described, there's so much going on. And what the beauty of that is that not only are artists about their art, but they're about their business. Is it frustrating? Yes. Back in 1989, I went to the then owner of Broadway Dance Center and said, there's something called hip hop. I think we should offer it at the studio. And that was the first hip hop dance class in a studio that I know of. My sisters, the Dunn sisters we were known as, had a company. We had a management and artist development company that serviced primarily the music industry, as well as a wide range of dance, the dance culture, because out of our organization, of course, I was the dancer and the dancer. And I just find now that whole world that exists, a lot of people don't even know about. And these dancers thrive. And it would be so interesting to me, dancers like Buddha Stretch, Elite Force, Poppin' Pete, the Electric Boogaloos, Mr. Wiggles, Latino brother, Mr. Wiggles. And these are the dancers that schooled me. First Buddha Stretch and then Mr. Wiggles. And together, we made our mark by bringing this art form to a mainstream studio where it had never been before. And the issue that you raised about appropriation, and it's a misappropriation. You're going to take, and people, choreographers that are popular in the mainstream audience. I just watched In the Heights yesterday. What would that have looked like if Maria Torres was the choreographer? What would that have looked like? I enjoyed it. But what would it have looked like if Maria Torres from the Latino community had choreographed that work? It would have looked different, wouldn't it? So it's no longer that we knock on the door asking for crumbs to be handed to us. We're taking it you know, and I'm the recipient of just that what Earl is doing with diversity of dance, I still am a part of and still flourish and benefit from. And that's how it's done, building our own nations quietly as we do, and we make our noise. And it's obvious, especially through the times that we're living in through COVID. So many of us are reinventing ourselves and getting stronger and stronger. Our day is coming. Our day, it is here, and I never worry about people. You know, back in the day, we should say, "Don't be biting my moves." I don't worry about nobody biting because the ideas are still going to flourish and they're still going to come and they're never going to stop. So go ahead, you can bite if you want, but I'm still going to come, and until God decides that I'm not going to be here anymore, it's still going to keep going.
Absolutely, and I find what. Oh, go ahead, JB. Go ahead.
No, I was thinking about Robin. She's so young and beautiful. But I remember back in 1983, 84, when my kids were young, I used to have to take them to see Rennie Harris and the Scanner Boys out in the suburbs of Philadelphia. And I have on my nightgown in the car waiting for them because they had to be back home at 12 o'clock. The Scanner Boys. And I kept saying, "What are you so excited about? What is that?" So, and then I saw Rennie, the boys on the corner with the cardboard, and everybody saying, "What was that crap and that trash?" And then Rennie started coming into my studio with his company and watch it grow. So he put them in the studio back in 1985, 86, because they were using my studio, and he still rehearses at my studio. So I know how that generation, your generation and young people, how you had to make your statement. You had to make a statement before it would be accepted. And now you see Japanese, Chinese, Indian, everybody else spinning on their head, claiming that it started with them. I know where it started with you guys making your own statement and making your way. And I just want to say, I'm so proud. I'm so proud.
Thank you so much, JB. And I want to say, before I ask Earl, go in a similar direction, that the legacy, what I took from what you said, Robin, and what I'm hearing spoken here, is that the legacy and the font of Blackness is infinite. So when we go out and I do a move, you can take it because you're not going to do it like me. So it's okay. It's okay. So we battle it out in the club. We're across from each other. That's our spirit. That's the community that we create. So although it is frustrating, I think, to see sometimes the fruits of the labor not be credited to the people that created that work, right? What would it have been to have Maria Torres choreograph In the Heights? We also know that we got more coming, right? We also know that our work does not start and stop with acknowledgement from the masses. Our work starts and stops with one-to-ones. And what we're doing here is how it started. And I think that is the most important work. Although we live in a society where finance, and I always want to advocate for people being credited and honored for the work that they did and started. But I also know that we are resilient. And although I don't want resilience to be counted on, we should be able to be vulnerable and soft, but we are resilient. And we are continuing to create in spaces that are unheard of. When I was at the club dancing, I remember Madonna sitting on the speaker at the Sound Factory, picking her dancers, and I was right there watching her pick between the House of Extravaganza and Ninja. I remember that like it was yesterday. I remember battling in the clubs. And before I turn it over to Earl, Talib Kweli says there's hip hop and there's an illegitimate cousin hip hop, which is pop hip hop, right? Which is very different than what we do culturally because it continues to change and evolve. Mr. Mosley, so how do you see things have changed and how have they stayed the same?
Well, I'm thinking about this song, Berta Berta, that I have been a fan of forever. And it deals with the ability to love through struggle, through oppression. Black folks just have this inherent ability to love, and not just, again, people who look like us, but people who don't look like us, because you would think with all the shit that we've been through.
Yeah.
Am I right, Miss Brown?
Oh,
if you would think with all this shit, am I right?
Yeah.
That we've been through, that we be out here like every other day taking somebody out. But somehow through all of the struggles and this particular song, one of those old Negro chain gang songs, and the men are saying to this lady Berta, I'm going to be here for all of my life, so you should go love someone else. You shouldn't waste your time on me. And she's like, no, you're who I'm in love with, and I'm going to wait. I'm going to be here. I'm going to be here. And all you hear is them like beating on the railroads, those chains. You just hear all of that. And I was like, wow, it made me think about just slavery in general, and just how oppression, and even I watched the Underground Railroad recently also. And through all of that, people were still loving each other. You know what I'm saying? Whether it be husband, wife, brother, sister, father, daughter, people were still loving each other. And I think there's just so much inherent power in our culture that while Ms. Brown said, like, before I was born, we were diverse. We were believing in diversity because we were still able to give to our neighbor. Even if we didn't have any, we still find a way to share. Even if we didn't have, like Ms. Brown was like, I brought Rennie into my studio. You know, that I think that's inherent in our culture we're just a giving and nurturing intergenerational culture. And intergenerational. We're not ones to say, if you're not of a certain age, there's no value in you. We're of a certain, oh my God, this is my elder. This is someone that I want to esteem to be one day. So that's why Robin said, and I fully agree, Ms. Brown, you can talk all you want to.
I just laugh because if people ask me, when am I going to write my book? And the name of my book is You Ain't Gonna Believe This Shit.
You're not.
See, that's the name of your new ballet. You know?
Oh, yeah, your ballet, because I'm not choreographing anymore.
Well, you know, it's interesting that we're laughing like this. I think what you just hit on earlier took me out of order because you made me say something. I got to skip a question and go to this one. I find Black joy is an act of revolution. I find that our ability to laugh and to enjoy thoroughly ourselves in the most difficult of circumstances is why we have still persevered, while we're still here, and why we will always be in the vanguard of creativity globally. And to Robin's point, we know hip hop rules the world. So whether I see a Black face in front of it or not, I know we made that, and everybody else knows we made it, right? So when we look at it, and when I know my body was instrumental in the creation of Pose, I know it was, right? I know that my body was instrumental in what we see there, and I think that the laughter that we share and the joy that we share as an act of revolution, that the expectation would be that when you can't believe this shit we've been through and everything, that we would be downtrodden and baggy-eyed. But look at JB, everybody. Just take a second. Look at that woman, right? Look at that face.
Flawless.
And Robin's face and mine and Earl's, we are here because, not just because of eating healthy and being dancers, but because of the joy that we allow to be part of what it is that we do. We don't want to do it if we can't find joy and purpose and fulfillment within it, right? Exactly. The idea of being an artist and a dancer is not just about being famous, making money, being on stages. It's about connecting deeply. And I didn't think about this till recently, and I'll share this with all of you, that it is an ancient practice, what we are doing in dance. Bringing the music, the rhythm, the life through your body is an ancient thing that we do as Black and brown people, and it connects us deeply in a way. When I dance, I feel the reason that I live. Even now, I am now I'm a director. I am resident director for Ain't Too Proud to Beg First National Tour. I am associate director for Jesus Christ Superstar First National Tour. And I'm director of work equity action for Worklight Productions. And in all that I do, I take ballet bar. I still go out and dance. I still dance with Earl when he calls me. Because the dance connects me in a way that my words, my political point of view, my articulation, and my intellect don't get to. When I start moving, there's a spirit, a statement that comes from that. And I find that when I watch, JB, when I watch your company now and then, when I watch all of the Black people, the Black bodies move as champions of Black in dance. When I see their bodies moving, I see that in them. I'm going to turn it over to Robin for a second. Robin, I watch your classes regularly from the side, and I watch your choreography, and you always are intergenerational in the work that you bring. I see people of multi-generations in your work. How do you find that Black joy, or joy period, is an active revolution within your work?
You know what? This is not Zoom, so I got to keep reminding me of that. Every time I go to unmute, it's not Zoom. I had to think about that because as you all were speaking, what I was thinking about is why we persevere as we do. Obviously, out of necessity, but our journey here, when you think about the foundation that was laid, and fortunate and unfortunate. Fortunate that we're here, but unfortunate. And what had to get us through? Our spirit. And so our mind, our bodies, and our souls are not disconnected. They're interconnected. And so I think that what's the best thing you can do to shun your enemy? And that is to, like Maya Angelou, still rise. And still I rise. You may want to cut me off of support or having resources. And yes, our journey is so difficult. And I really didn't realize until COVID just how much so. And COVID made me realize, whoa. And since we're saying the S word, this shit is worse than I ever thought it was. Like, whoa. And it made me feel a little ignorant. Like, wait a minute. Was I buying into what this wider society had the picture it painted for me? And it's like, so it's like, okay, you're going to bring me from my native land. You're going to strip me of all my human rights. You're going to have me build your country so that you can prosper, and then tell me, no, I'm sorry, I can't rent you that apartment. No, you can't have an education. No, you're not going to make that wage at a job. So where's my reparations? And it's like, God don't like ugly. God don't like ugly. And I don't think any of us thought we'd be here. And now that we are, going back to the point at hand, maintaining that Black joy, that Black pride, that sense of ethnocentrism that keeps us all going. It doesn't dismiss, like on this platform right now, everybody looks lovely. When the camera goes off, who are you when the camera goes off? And so you don't bring your struggles to the table. So it's like, in terms of what joy means to activism, what's the main root of that word? Action. My sister's a take action coach. Shout out Des, TA Coach Des. She's a take action coach. And so when you take action, the goal is to get results. And so by us taking that action, by us maintaining our spirit and our perseverance, we then continue to convert that into the infrastructural foundation that we all slowly lay every time we do the work. And contrary to popular belief, we do help each other, because each one of us on this platform has helped each other in some kind of way, whether you know it or not. There might be that day, Miss Brown. I keep calling you Miss Brown because it's like I don't know you as JB. I just feel like that. So
I got a lot of names. JB, Joan, Aunt Joan, Mom. A few other things I won't talk about, but
yeah, okay, but the thing is, it's like again, the joy that we exude and we make use of as one of our tools to get where we want to go converts into, like alchemy, into gold. And so so I think that activism, if you will, again, gets us closer to where we want to be.
Absolutely. I'm reminded when you said we all look pretty here and what else and the ugly things that we go through, but you know where I'm going, JB. We did a dance by Tally Beatty called Prettiest Skin Deep, Ugliest to the Bone. And that was one of my favorite dances to do at PHILADANCO. It was one of the hardest dances I've ever done. And to my knowledge, maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong, that blues costume has not been done in total since I did it. So it's
oh, no. We've done it 10,000 times since then.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Because there was a blue costume that I wore, and Earl Mosley saw me dance this dance at the Joyce, and he said, Brian, I looked to the left, and you came out the wing. I looked to the right, and you came out the wing. I looked to the left again, and you came out the wing. And what I'm made aware of in that moment is that the pressure of the structure and discipline of dance that we do is what refines us to be the diamonds that we are. I don't want to glorify the struggle because a lot of the struggle that we've been through is unjust and inhumane and should never have happened to us. And I want to just make that very clear for anybody listening that although we take our triumphs and take our challenges and make them triumphs, I want to encourage everyone that's listening to us this evening to consider what triumphs might we have built had we not had to be bothered with the mundane discussion about our worth as it regards to our race. What could we have created if we would have just been allowed to create and collaborate with all of the people that we come into contact with? What would we be? Look how wonderful this panel is. Look how wonderful Joan Myers Brown's institution and legacy and continuum is. But she's had to fight banks. She's had to fight other wider dance institutions for money that don't do half the work that she's done. She's had things taken away from her because she has a Black institution. And had that not been the case, had people come with arms open with gifts of support as they do in other institutions, what might the world, not just the Black world, but the entire world look like if we were allowed to fully create in all of the glory that we have? What would that be? And I'm often struck with that lately because I'm like, you know, as JB said in the very beginning, she's been asked, what is Black dance? At least 11 times, right? And if you don't know what 11 is, anybody listening, go look it up. It's a Black colloquialism. We've been asked 11 times, what is Black dance? We've all answered that question, right? What will we be able to create if we never have to answer that question? Or what do you think about that? If we never have to answer that question, what is do you ever think about that? Like what the vision would be if that was never a bother?
I think the endless possibilities, you know, it's just endless possibilities. And also too, it's like the point of, as Ms. Brown just said, can I just be? I think if we are in that utopia world, the hypothetical world, then I think people would just be. And you create because you just need to create, or you love because you just need to love. You share because you just need to share. The human connection would come without any false pretenses. And that is a stain on America. That's a huge stain on America, because you have people still telling us, oh, we think you're gonna we're not going to be in control anymore of you all. Basically, our rights are our rights. Although we had to beat you down to get them, they're our rights, not your rights. The repeal of white people, the repeal of this, the repeal of that. I ain't got time for it, as Robin would say. I ain't got time for it, because we're able to still push through. You guys, you know, we're still like you said, Robin. When COVID came, oh my goodness, I saw some things that. Like Ms. Brown, like you said, you are elder, but for me and Robin, we saw things. I thought I had went through some stuff, but when COVID came, I was like, you know what? Now I'm actually going through some stuff. Now I'm actually going through some stuff, and then George Floyd happened. Now I'm going through some more stuff, and I hope that it encourages all of us to know our power even more, and how we can really, as Brian would say, how we can really triumph. How we can really build a legacy that young people esteem to and say, I'm going to take this torch even further. Because I did see it in the streets this summer. I have seen it despite all the inequities and all the racial profiling, the white supremacy. I still saw us rise. And that's when first time in my lifetime, I just can't be a choreographer. I just can't be a teacher because I gotta be, because what I am and I'm proud of is Black.
You know, go ahead, JB, go ahead.
Hey, that's how my mouth you catch me. Right? No, I was just thinking, when people talk about me and I said, I think I have founder's disease. I'm always founding something, but not so much that I'm trying to address and make a difference in what's going out there. Okay, I see that we need to get together as Black people and make sure that we present ourselves and each other. We create our own theaters, create, and if we don't do it for ourselves, we can't sit back and wait for them to do it for us because, my company owes me over $1 million, and they don't fund me because I got a debt, but that's still my money, If the white guy's got a debt, somebody write them a check, and the debt goes away, and they keep on rolling. But we still, you got a debt, but they make excuses for holding us back, but we still keep going. We keep going. And I see people like Robin that keep going because whatever's out there is there for you and it's going to happen. And, like I say, and Brian Brooks, to see you become a man, because when I met you, you were a boy. You were a boy. And I'm proud of you. I know my boys died to go to Earl Mosley's camp. Aunt Joan, can you help us get to camp? What camp? Earl Mosley. So for me, we're coming to the end of this conversation, but the conversation never stops. And I entitle you to keep it going. But I'm gonna be nice and I want to go to the beach.
Well, thank you for saying that, JB. And I also think what's really powerful about, and this now we're in order, Earl. what really strikes me in this moment is that our connection, our continuum, our legacy is what we do naturally. That is how we told stories when our stories were stripped from us. That legacy never left us. And that is the magic sauce. That is the power. That is the Black people magic that people speak of, because you cannot steal that. You can't steal it in a jail. You can't steal it in a slave plantation. You can't steal it in an economic divestment. You can't steal it within COVID. We are still here doing that thing. And, I grew up in an activist household, so it's no surprise to me that I ended up in the places I ended up. It's no surprise to me that I ended up in and aligned with PHILADANCO. It's no surprise to me because, JB, you saw the move bombing happen. If people don't know what the move bombing is, I would highly suggest you look it up. But the move bombing and what that happened in Philadelphia, while you were having a full-on working company where you were trying to get dancers to be in places that nobody thought that they could be, is revolutionary. It's revolutionary for Earl, for you to continue to have classes during COVID and to continue to say we're going to do a performance as soon as it's over and to press on. I think that all of you, Robin, for you to teach in the way that you do and to bring that legacy forward and to continue to do it regardless of who is watching is revolutionary. And I don't think any of you know how revolutionary it is, because you may have heard it be said that way, but I want to say from people experiencing you, all of you personally, and from a distance, right? It affects things in a way on a cellular level and on a macro level that I think people really should study in a deeper way. Because the truth of the matter is that is the revolution. That is where it is. It's the way, and it's the way that I'm able to be so effective is because when I get tired, when I get weary, when I'm tired of teaching the third kid to the left, when I'm tired of having that meeting, I think, remember, and then also can call and connect. I know I can pick up the phone and say, JB, I don't know what to do here. I know I can pick up the phone and say, Earl, what do I do? I know I can say, Robin, I'm doing a hip hop thing. I'm doing a dance thing. And you do this, even if it's not hip hop. I can say, Robin, you do this so beautifully here. I saw your lighting in Earl's piece with the white in the back and the X in the back. I saw that and I'm doing a Broadway musical. What did you use to do that? Can you come in and look at that? And that resource, that infinite font of resource cannot be stolen or taken or moved. And I think that sometimes young people, we all get worried about young people, especially, I mean, JB talks about me being a boy, and now I'm a man, talk about, look at these young people, right? When I look at young people, what I want to leave them to understand is that we are the resource. You have to move, although you want more, you have to move from the spirit that you are already enough. And that any dollar you get, that any notoriety you get, that any trophy you get will never validate you if you are unvalidated within yourself. And the validation that I have comes from the community that I stand on the shoulders of Joan Myers Brown and shoulder to shoulder with Robin Dunn and Earl Mosley. When I have that community, as I move, if I get more money, if I don't get more money, if I have to take a side job, that's fine. The legacy of my greatness lies within the people's eyes and bodies. And so with that, I want to bring us to this. Many people get concerned about Black people talking so candidly. And I know we all get like, because this is a moment where, now JV has always been candid, which is what has always inspired me. Always been candid about the struggles around racial and racism and racial issues, and about the triumphs that we have. Always been Tally Beatty, always outspoken. One of the greatest choreographers of all time, in my opinion. One of my mentors when I was a young person. Changed the way that I saw the ability to speak, even though he was choreographing, not a speaker. He was a choreographer, but how he spoke within that. And people get nervous about us speaking and think we're going to be in a place of complaint or we're going to be retributive. And I always say, all we want is to be free to be who we are, with unfettered, uninterrupted. And that's where I think we move from. Robin, I want to ask you, as you continue to create, what are the new things you see coming up? What are you excited about when you look at young people today?
The musicality and what young people are doing with movement. In hip hop, a lot of times there'd be, in the traditional role, I'd hear that it didn't move enough. It was just too stationary. And I think with dancers taking liberties, and it's not always received well in the hip hop community, because sometimes it just takes it a bit far away from its origin. However, taking the movement and making it move in a particular way, and sometimes that does mean fusion, like incorporating other styles and the mixing of styles. And again, that's typically frowned upon unless a person really does it a certain way. But it's amazing that with the progression of movement from then back in the 80s or 70s to now, and the fact that and that's the source. You'd go, like, when I was teaching in middle school, I'd be at the school and I'd be like, what are you doing? Like, and the kids would just be coming up organically with movement and just the feeling behind it. And then that speaks to my reference about our souls, the fact that we're so connected to our spirit that it moves in such an organic way that, yeah, it's important to have technique and it's important to have protocol. It's important to have a process. At the end of the day, what I had to learn as a traditional dancer is to hit that cipher and go and rely on my heart, my soul, and my mind. And that just wasn't how I was trained. Over the years, that did begin to happen for me. Almost to the point I had to laugh. My mama would always say, when did my daughter become a thug? Like, what happened? It's like, what happened to my daughter? And then life happened. Yeah. Just being affected by life. And a lot of times I do my best to remain positive. I do my best to stay lifted and be spiritual. At the same token, when we speak of COVID, when we think about the fact that so many things, so many aspects of our society have just been released so that everyone can see what's going on. Those hard I've spent many a day in my apartment really wrestling, even with my sanity, because I then had to question everything. But on the good note, it has now fueled me in a new and different way. And so, I heard once that the quote is, a teacher's job is to shape lives, build dreams, and give hope for the future. And what's wonderful about our young people is they do that for us as well. Because it's like, you know, being present for somebody's birth. It's like, oh, you see the world in a whole other way. So I had to let go. And that's what I'm doing. I'm just letting go and allowing myself to be a bit more organic versus influenced by my experience and my past. You know, otherwise, you know, you don't stay fresh. So, you know, for me, it's important to keep connected to young people and keep pressing that reset button, that refresh button, so that
Absolutely.
yeah, you stay inspired.
Absolutely. And I definitely, I'm going to turn it over to you, Earl, in just one second. But I also think that as I dance all the time, I stay connected to young people and what their openness is. And one of the things that's always been in my mind, even when I was a young person myself, I thought about how much, you know, Blackness is trying to be structured to be palatable for the larger masses, right? Learn this technique, and technique is refined to one idea of technique, which is a balletic aesthetic, and that is technique. And now what I'm really excited to see young people take and fly with is breaking apart what those traditional ideas are. Yes, they learn it. I think they need to learn it and have the discipline of what those structures are, so they're not recreating the wheel. But what I'm really excited about is the possibility to break apart the ideas and say, okay, so who can really restructure how they move? Because I tell my students when I teach and or people that I direct that there will be nothing new except you. Everything has been done. Every way the arm can move, it's moved. Every way the leg can go up, it's gone up. Every way that the foot can point, it's been done. But you, your experience, your heart will be different. Now, Earl, you work with young people all the time. And what are you excited about coming forward in the future?
I'm excited that young people through this COVID experience, we all have, I mean, here we are tonight on this virtual process, have embraced technology more than ever before. I'm excited about that, but there's a double-edged sword to it, because there's something about family, there's something about organic relationships. And all of those things to me tie into an honest imagination and a fluid creativity. So basically, I fear that young people are going to use their devices so much as a codependent, and everything is going to become more gimmicky. And I don't want the process of genuine imagination and creativity to create some solid choreography, you know, some solid like expression, a tangible connection with your audience, so that it's real, like listening to Gladys Knight sing, you know, or watching a Tally Beatty piece. Like that's real structure there. No smoke and mirrors. Like this is what it really is. And so I, as excited as I am about the way I've seen all of these virtual pieces happen because they actually had to, I just don't want the younger choreographers to forfeit the ability to dream and imagine and really create something out of nothing, as opposed to, you know, like you hit send or you hit the button and the button actually does it for you. And the process of being a real educator, to me, then is also limited, begins to be limited as well. Because are we teaching our young people to be actual dancers, artists, or to be people who can look good in 15 minutes? Or to make a dance that can look good in 6 minutes, just because you're able to move the figures around and give lighting and give all of this stuff. But when it's stripped away, where's the choreography? When it's stripped away, like what's the essence of the movement that gives it a life that is that'll last a lifetime, like those classic pieces, like you said, Phoebe Snow by Tally Beatty. I know we're bringing his name up a lot, but there's a reason. You know, Ms. Brown, there's a reason. You did the work. Like you're doing the work. You did the work. There was no, you had to get on that payphone and look, where you at? You better come up in this rehearsal. I think we need those type of tangible family. That's what I mean about family, not just blood related, but family connections to help all of us to understand the importance of doing the work. And I think with the technology now, it's a different type of working, but I don't want that to forfeit the other part of my daddy would always say, as intelligent as you are, Mosley, you should always still know how to use a shovel. You know, when I was a young kid, take me, but when I became older, I remember, oh, he means I need to be able to roll that Marley floor, whether I'm in Lincoln Center or whether I'm at the youth center. The integrity has to be there, or if not, I'm going to end up selling myself short. And then in the long run, what did I really gain from it? I want to teach young people to hold on to their integrity.
Yeah, and not only was PHILADANCO my Wakanda, it was also my Yale. It was also my Harvard. You know, my dance institutional training, you know, was I will match my wits and have matched my wits with anybody from any of those higher learning institutions. And that has been because of the intricate and detailed way in which we pass on the legacy of dance. And what I hear everyone saying about young people, and what I hear us all saying about our resilience and our ability to be here, is that we use accountability as a call to action. And that accountability keeps us connected. And that connectivity keeps us creating, which keeps us surviving and thriving. And what we love to see young people do is to connect and thrive and create. What we get nervous about for our generation coming up is that the devices that we're on, the things that are being packaged, because this all becomes something that's packaged and produced, prevent them from having the legacy of that truthful eye to eye, body to body, heart to heart, physical blood, sweat, tears connection that you can only get when you stand next to somebody. What I'm hopeful about coming out of COVID is that COVID has kept us so separate for so long that the yearning for human connection will be there, and that people will want to put the device down when they go to the concert or put the device down when they go out dancing and put it over there so they can actually have an experience that's not about being recorded, that's not about clicks and likes, that's not being monetized, because money cannot give you what it is that we have on this panel. Money cannot give it to you. It can give us the ability to be in more comfortable spaces, to give us more comfort and more money, but it cannot give us what we all have, because we've all seen the whites of each other's eyes, right? We've all seen the sweat on each other's brow coming out of a studio. I've seen JB walk in that studio and be just as hot as we are. She said, Brian, when I was at PHILADANCO, my job was to take the music up to the sound booth when we had reel to reel and connect it and tell them when the cues are. That is how I'm able to be so functional on Broadway. I know how every part of a theater works. And I learned that in my Black institutions. So I think we're at time, but I want to leave our final word to JB. What do you want to say to us as we leave here this evening? What would you like everybody to know?
You know, I listen, first of all, the opportunity to meet a Robin Dunn and to know that there is a next generation of thinkers, because we're not thinking. You ask a kid a question, they go to their phone and ask for the answer, and that she's thinking and she's moving ahead, and I'm going to hire her too. She don't know it, but I am. But so that there's more to come. There's more to come. And that we have to allow our young people to know that there's more to come, and it doesn't stop with the Zoom and the boom. You know, that pushing that button is what makes your life worthwhile. So I want to make sure that our young people become thinkers and be willing to take a risk and to move ahead and to say that it doesn't stop now because this is all we got. So it's amazing, and I'm so glad that I was invited tonight, because again, I'm a 90-year-old broad who's been told, that's old stuff. They don't do it like that no more. I don't want to hear that. I want to hear that we're gonna move ahead and create and build and have the next step come. It's got to come from us. Thank you. Thank you for allowing me to be here.
Thank you. I want to thank our panel, Robin Dunn, Frederick Earl Mosley, and Joan Myers Brown. And I am Brian Harlan Brooks. And we'd like to thank Steps on Broadway and Steps Beyond for having us. I want to say, everybody, keep dancing, keep connecting, keep thriving. Let your joy, Black or otherwise, be an act of revolution. Thank you so much. Bye, everyone.
Bye.